Greetings from the KICC, and today we are hosted by the Director of the Marginalized and Minority Community under the Office of the President, Mr. Josphat Lowoi. I hope I pronounced your name correctly.
You say Olo, it is Lowoi.
Oh, Lowoi, wow. Yes, I had a feeling I didn't pronounce it correctly, but it's a beautiful name, and we appreciate cultures, we appreciate heritage in Africa, and thank you very much for having us, the Sabala TV, at your office. So I will give you a chance to introduce yourself to our viewers.
Thank you very much. My name is Honorable Josphat Lowoi Lodea. I'm the Director of my Minority and Marginalized Communities Unit under the Executive Office of the President. And I'm the one in charge of all the minority and marginalized communities in developing the policy framework towards their recognition and protection.
Yes, thank you very much. So, of course, as a director of the marginalized and minority community, you understand the history of the Nubians and how Nubians came to Kenya. So Nubians came to Kenya in the year 1850s as the British colonialist soldiers. So they must have gone through so much transition when it comes to being citizens of Kenya, when it comes to being recognized as citizens. Of course, during the year 1950s, when the whole of Africa was fighting for its independence, Nubians had to pick a side. So, of course, they chose the side of the Africans, and that made them stateless. Of course, you can imagine the agony it cost them, economically, socially, and financially. So what is your take on that?
Thank you very much. We start from the country's point of view. This country have diverse communities and cultures all through, Nubian being part of the history of the country. But all the administrations have never taken keen interest onto this. But the current administration are coming out with a curative measure to make sure that those communities that have been put aside all through can now be recognized and be put into the mainstream governance of this country. Because a country cannot develop if some communities are left behind. I feel for the Nubians from all that time. But the makers of the Constitution 2010 had to come up with this, and now this administration, led by His Excellency William Ruto, is taking keen interest and ready to address those issues and come up with corrective measures to make sure that those communities don't continue suffering and they are recognized, their kids get documentations required in time, they get the quality education. Their land, the history of land injustices is settled. Going forward, Nubian community and the other communities should feel to be part of this country.
It's very well spoken. Now that you've mentioned the land issue, every minority, and marginalized group in Kenya goes through a paradox, a bittersweet situation. You see, Kenya, when in the year 2017, when Uhuru Kenyatta granted the Nubians a title deed, which is a communal title deed. Of course, they were very grateful, even the elders in the community cried tears of joy. But now it comes to the point where it's a communal title deed. They cannot develop, they cannot do anything past just being granted a title deed. What is the government doing about it?
Thank you very much. When the title deed was granted as a communal title deed at that time, it was the first step moving forward. Now this administration will take keen interest into what the community say. Is the land that the title deed that was granted, is it enough to be divided amongst the communities living there? Is it going to cause a conflict within the same community? Now that is what my office is going to take keen interest in. So that if the community feels that each individual needs to feel the ownership of that land, and you all agree, then there is no big problem. We are going to agree moving forward. This is a country where everybody has a say and has a voice, and what is doable can be done. What is not doable can be discussed.
It's a very good point you brought up, that can it be divided to the members of the community? Just to bring up the point to our viewers, it was from 4,197 acres to 288 acres. So you can imagine, overpopulation of 150,000 people. So that doesn't add up. Of course, it will be a nice thing if the government does something about it. So you've heard of the Sabala festival. and what it's all about promoting the Nubian culture, promoting the minorities, and also making them know that they can be seen, they can be heard. And of course, such events exist in Kenya, and most of them are self-sponsored. So I would like to know, is the government doing anything in terms of sponsorship, in terms of accommodating such events?
Thank you very much. Yes, the government is doing something through the Department of Culture. When the government is now taking keen interest on other major communities, they used to even give their budget early enough that we have this event coming up, we have a cultural fest coming up, but the minority tribes never took part of it. Now going forward, we will be part of the budget making process, so that when you're having your cultural event, you will be included in the government agenda. The government can facilitate to some extent, and the community partners and people of goodwill can chip in and also cover the remaining part. What the Sabala festival for the Nubi community is an eye-opener to all other communities, because that is where you will preserve your culture. It is in the constitution. And that is why you preserve your economic status, what you used to do. That is where we will return back our Africanism, so that we are not taken, we are not westernized, all of us, and forget about ourselves. We need to go back to our roots. And that is an encouragement to all the other small communities that fear coming out and showcasing their culture. So I'm really proud and happy that this is happening.
Thank you very much. So I heard earlier that there's an event on the 18th of December that this Office of the Minority and Marginalized is planning. So tell us more about that event.
Thank you very much. The UN Declaration of 1992 declared that 18th December each year is going to be a Minority Rights Day. That's the time each country will audit and know actually how far of minority issues been factored into their constitution and how far have it been implemented in various governments. Because the minority issue is not only a Kenyan thing, it's an international problem. And now it is a discussion that should be put on the main table, to be discussed all through. As we are discussing climate, we should also discuss the minorities, because most of them are in these forests. Somebody told me Kibera is a Nubi name, meaning forest. That means it was a forest, now it's gone. So we should bring the minority onto the table to discuss these issues. So on 18th, Kenya will have an inaugural, the first of its kind, celebration to now celebrate with the minorities, and the government will make a commitment to the minorities that now we want to recognize you, we want to protect your culture, we want to make sure that Article 56 about the affirmative action on education, on economic empowerment to the minority and marginalized is now actualized, because all minority tribes are lacking behind in education, in the economy, in the governance structure. They are not even in any leadership, political or appointive. So this is the start of it. When this event will happen on 18th December this year, it will be held at Bomas of Kenya. We are just near the Nubi, when the Nubi population is bigger. The president will be the chief guest, and I think in history this will be the first minority event to be recognized by the head of state. So I'm welcoming each and every individual minority to be in attendance, so that from that point now we can chart our way forward and make sure that we also jump into the governance of this country.
That's very well spoken, and I believe such events will bring us as Africans together, and we will appreciate our heritage. We will learn to know that we can also stand out, and we also have a voice. I know my viewers at Sabala TV want to know you personally, and when I first interacted with you, I found out that you are from the Turkana community. And of course, we would like to know, what is the one thing that our viewers doesn't know about Turkana community, the one thing that stands out about your culture?
Thank you very much. Turkana community, where I come from, is a pastoralist nomadic community. It's a community that's been lagging behind. And you speak to every Kenyan. It is now that since the promulgation of the new constitution, that the Turkana is now, because of the county, have got some respect. But before you speak to every person, even in the streets, if you find somebody who's dirty, they will tell you, what will come, chafu come Turkana. It was
which is very unfortunate.
Yeah, but now, at least, they are also, because of the affirmative action, because of the counties, they are now getting up. There are also, there is a community that still protects their culture. It's a community that still protects their way of life. Lucky enough, it's a community that is in a county that is bigger than the first and biggest county in the country as we speak, underdeveloped county. You go to the city, you can find Turkana County, you go to their towns, you can see like Turkana is developed. But you go to the marginal areas, you find people still in trouble. So those are the people that we will be focusing on the marginalized side, not the minority, because Turkana has grown in number. They might not be in the minority. But there are areas that are still in the marginal that also need to be discussed with the government agencies so that they can get affirmative action in infrastructural development.
I think it's very stereotypical for someone to say the fact that the painting they do on their bodies, is it traditional?
Yes, it is.
It's part of tradition, right?
Yes.
So it's very stereotypical for someone to say they're dirty. That is their way of life. Simply because the Western world doesn't do it does not mean it's wrong. So to me, I think it's fascinating. I think we should appreciate that Turkana people are beautiful and they stand out in their own way. So thank you very much, sir, for having us here, for hosting us here, the Nubian culture, the Nubian community. I really appreciate. From Sabala TV, this is Akina Mwaka signing out.